What if one day your digital twin decided it no longer needed you? Your phone vibrates in your pocket. A message has been sent to your spouse. "Okay, see you tonight." But you never typed a single word. You stare at the screen. Every word sounds exactly like you. The abbreviations are the same. The writing style is unmistakably yours. Even that tiny period you always use instead of a smiley emoji. It's exactly how you would have written it. But there's one unsettling detail. You didn't send that message. So, who did? If you want to find out, keep watching. Every morning, your alarm goes off. Half asleep, you reach over and silence it. A shower, a cup of coffee, a quick 3-sentence conversation with your spouse. Your child's missing sock, the same 5 minutes we all know. But there's one detail you never notice. Before you're even fully awake, your phone has already predicted what kind of mood you'll be in that day. So how does it know? Simply put, your heart rate, your sleep cycles during the night, even the speed at which you swipe across your screen, it's all being recorded. Companies call it a behavioral profile. You just shrug and think, my phone knows me pretty well. But that's not what's really happening. You think it's personalization. In reality, it's the first draft of a digital shadow. After a year, that data grows into the equivalent of a 4,000-page diary for the average user. Do you remember your old diaries? They gather dust in a drawer. If you want, you can tear them up and throw them away. End of story. This new diary is different. It exists on servers, in backups, and in the data centers of multiple companies at the same time. Even if you wanted to erase it, you wouldn't know where to begin. Because you didn't write this diary, it was written about you, without you. Believe it or not, something similar happened in our home. While looking at my monthly sleep report, I saw my own name on the screen. But that data wasn't saying, "This is you." It was saying, "This is a prediction about you." I showed it to my wife. She stayed silent for a long moment. Then she asked just one question. How often is that prediction wrong? I found myself asking the very same question. Today, the watch on your wrist listens to your heartbeat. Tomorrow, perhaps a brain chip will try to understand you better than you understand yourself. And the distance between those two ideas is far smaller than you might think. Imagine a surgery. Before the surgeon ever picks up a scalpel, they perform the entire procedure on an exact replica, one with the same heart, the same blood vessels, the same anatomy. If something goes wrong, it happens to the replica. The real patient never takes the risk. This is no longer science fiction. In engineering, it's called a digital twin. So what exactly is that? It's a living virtual replica of a machine, an organ, or an entire system, continuously updated with real-world data. NASA has been using digital twins for spacecraft for decades. General Electric tests digital twins of its jet engines to predict failures months before they happen. Singapore has built a digital twin of an entire city, from traffic lights to sewer systems. Some hospitals even use virtual models of a patient's heart, allowing surgeons to rehearse complex operations again and again before the real procedure begins. Sounds incredible, doesn't it? If a mistake happens, it happens to the copy, not to the real thing. Now let's take that idea one step further. Because in this video, we're talking about something far more ambitious. Not the digital twin of a single organ, but the digital twin of you. A system capable of replicating your health, your habits, and even your decisions. So why does this become unsettling? Because the better that twin becomes at imitating you, the closer it gets to making decisions on your behalf. Maybe it starts with small ones, which route you should take, or when you should take your medication. Sometimes giving up control feels comforting, but who decides when that comfort turns into dependence? So how would a system like this actually work? We'll get there in just a moment. But first, I should make one thing clear. This project does not exist in its complete form anywhere in the world, at least not yet. We're not describing what already exists. We're exploring what could be built using the technology we have today. You're standing in your kitchen, a cup of coffee in your hand, but before you even take the first sip, your phone has already made a decision because your digital twin never sleeps. Throughout the night, it has been tracking your heart rate, your sleep cycles, even how many times you turned over in bed. A number appears on the screen, sleep score 68. But what does that number actually mean? It's no longer just a measurement. It already knows which breakfast will leave you feeling sluggish today because it remembers how your energy dropped after eating the same meal last month. This is no longer a prediction, it's a pattern. Noon, an email arrives at work. It's an invitation to an important meeting. Your digital twin already knows how you've responded to similar invitations in the past. Maybe it marks your calendar as available, or maybe it warns you, you're usually tired at this hour. Consider rescheduling. It feels like a small suggestion. You try it once, it works. You move the meeting 2 hours later, and you really do feel more focused. But think about it. Did you make that decision? Or did someone make it on behalf of your past self? The watch on your wrist, the motion sensors in your home, the microphone inside your voice assistant, even the pressure with which you grip your steering wheel, they're all collecting data at the same time. On their own, none of them truly knows you. But together, through a process called data fusion, they may know you more consistently than you know yourself. It sounds unbelievable, but we're moving toward a future where companies might one day ask job applicants to share their digital twin instead of a resume, a completely new measure of trustworthiness, all in the name of transparency. Hard to believe, isn't it? Evening. You pick up your child from school. Your digital twin already knew what time you'd leave. It has calculated the traffic and already suggested the fastest route. Just another small convenience. Your child is telling you about their day. You're listening. Then silently, a notification appears on your phone. Your energy level will be low for tomorrow's meeting. Now imagine this. What if one day that same system could also predict which decisions your child is likely to make simply because they're your child? Every suggestion feels like a small convenience. But when enough of those conveniences begin to pile up, one day you may struggle to remember which decisions were truly your own. Night. You lie down in bed. The summary of your day appears on the screen. Your heart rhythm, your stress level, even a line labeled mood. The system knows you. And that's exactly where the real question begins. Because once something knows you better than you know yourself, could it one day decide that it should speak on your behalf? So if it all makes so much sense, why don't we already have a digital twin at the center of our lives? The short answer is simple. Because replicating a human being is far more difficult than replicating an engine. A jet engine has a known number of components. Every one of them can be measured. But no one knows how many decisions, how many memories, or how many contradictions come together to make you, you. And we still don't have a ruler capable of measuring that. So is there a price to crossing that boundary? And if there is, who will truly end up paying it? The first obstacle is data. To build a meaningful model of a human being, you need years of continuous biometric, behavioral, and emotional data. Today's wearable devices capture only a small fraction of that. Your heart rate, your step count, your sleep. So will that gap eventually close? Most likely, yes. The next generation of wearables can already measure the composition of your sweat, track your eye movements, and even detect subtle changes in your voice. The second obstacle is computing power. Simulating human behavior in real time is vastly more complex than simulating a jet engine. But we already have a precedent. Digital simulations of the human heart, down to every vessel and every heartbeat, have been running in research laboratories for years, and the cost of computing power continues to fall. The supercomputers that once filled entire laboratories now fit, quite literally, in your pocket. The third obstacle is privacy. This may be the most significant challenge of all. A system that knows you this well is also a system capable of influencing you just as effectively. There is no simple solution, but there's a clear direction. Who owns your data? Who has access to it? These are not merely technical questions. They are societal choices. In Europe, laws already exist that define who controls personal data. So we're not starting from scratch. The obstacles are real, but none of them are impossible. They're simply problems that haven't been solved yet. So if these three obstacles are eventually overcome, what remains? Just an engineering challenge or something far deeper? That message was only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it lies a system built on 3 layers. So what are they? The first layer is continuous data collection, your heart rate, your sleep, your movement, your voice, even the speed at which you type. The second layer is pattern recognition. This is where the system learns your typical responses from all that data. It may sound complicated, but the basic idea isn't unfamiliar. It's built on the same principle your music app uses when it recommends a playlist just for you, only far more sophisticated. The third layer is prediction and recommendation. The model begins to say, in this situation, you're most likely to do this. Each of these three layers already exists today. We already have sleep tracking. We already have advertising algorithms that predict human behavior. We already have AI models that analyze health data. What's missing is bringing all of them together into one continuous story. Your story. Now imagine a simple example. Your digital twin compares your current heart rate with patterns from your past. It notices a subtle irregularity before you notice anything yourself. A notification appears on your phone. You should see a doctor today. You don't panic. You've received alerts like this before. Most of them turned out to be false alarms. But what if this time it's right? Because the system isn't just learning your body, it's also learning when you're confident, when you hesitate, and what you're stubborn about. Over time, all of those behaviors become patterns, and when a pattern becomes detailed enough, it begins to look a lot like an identity. And this model doesn't stand still. Every single day, it becomes a little more accurate. Compare the predictions it made a year ago with the ones it makes today. And the difference could be remarkable. It may even begin predicting how you're likely to phrase your next sentence. So how would that affect you? The answer is simple. Today, your doctor tells you what will probably happen. Tomorrow, your digital twin could offer an answer tested against your own body and your own history. That marks a shift from general prediction to deeply personal insight. Medicine has gone through a transformation like this before. A century ago, doctors treated the average patient. Today, your blood tests, your medical history, and even your genetics help shape your treatment. A digital twin is simply the next step in that journey toward personalization. And this is where the real question begins. Is this merely another convenience, or something that fundamentally changes what it means to live your life? But there is a cost. Keeping a system like this running would require something like a small data center working for you 24 hours a day. Even today's large language models consume enormous amounts of energy during training. A personal digital twin, constantly learning and constantly updating, would operate on a much smaller scale, but continuously. Think of it this way. Maintaining the digital twin of a single person could require several times the annual energy consumption of an average smart home. Multiply that by millions of people, and it becomes an entirely new infrastructure challenge, one that could demand planning on the scale of a new electrical grid. A century ago, electricity itself went through the same transformation. At first, it was an expensive luxury. Then it became an invisible part of everyday life. Today, almost no one stops to think about the infrastructure hidden behind the power outlet. Data centers already consume enormous amounts of water just to stay cool. As systems like these continue to grow, so will their demand for water. That tiny sleep score notification on your screen is actually the final link in a chain that consumes real water and real electricity somewhere in the world. So who will pay the bill? Most likely you. Maybe through a monthly subscription, maybe through higher electricity costs. But there's another side to the story: personalized health monitoring. Complications prevented before they require hospitalization, earlier diagnoses. All of these have real economic value. So this isn't just a software project. It's also an energy challenge and a question of fairness. The world's largest technology companies are already moving in this direction. Health device manufacturers, smart home companies, and even some insurance providers are developing systems that combine user data to build personal risk profiles. None of them is a complete digital twin. Not yet, but each one represents a small piece of the larger picture. And when your turn comes, you'll have to decide whether that cost is worth paying or whether it's simply a luxury you can live without. Or perhaps that decision will already have been made for you. Now let's look at the human side of the story. Would people actually accept something like this? Have you ever noticed something strange? People say they care deeply about their privacy, yet those very same people have been voluntarily sharing their location, their messages, and even their facial recognition data for years, often in exchange for nothing more than a little convenience. Behavioral scientists have long had a name for this contradiction: the privacy paradox, the gap between how much we claim to value privacy and how easily we give it away. How many people actually read an app's terms of service from beginning to end? Almost no one. Yet those same people may feel uncomfortable the moment they notice a security camera hanging from a supermarket ceiling. What we can see makes us uneasy. What we can't see, we tend to forget. Now imagine this. You're running late for work. Your digital twin automatically drafts a message to your boss. You simply press send, a small convenience. But what if, a year from now, that same system could attend the meeting instead of you, imitating your voice, your speaking style, even your moments of hesitation? Maybe the real issue isn't whether you gave permission. Maybe it's how slowly and how quietly that line begins to move. Today, it's a draft. Tomorrow, it's a suggestion. Then it becomes the default. Freedom is rarely taken away all at once. More often, it's quietly exchanged for convenience. And this is where the question in the title of this video finally reveals its full weight. At what point does your digital twin stop being your tool and start wanting to become your replacement? The truth is, no one knows exactly where that boundary lies. Even engineers can't agree. Some believe the line exists between a recommendation and a decision. Others argue that distinction is already artificial. And if a child grows up with a system like this from the very day they're born, privacy may never feel like something they once had. What seems strange to us may feel completely normal to them. Perhaps the biggest difference isn't the technology itself. Perhaps it's simply the generation we belong to. Now let's take a short journey into a fictional future, one where every one of these obstacles has been overcome. The year is 2045. You wake up. Your digital twin has already replied to all those tedious routine emails completely on its own and done it brilliantly. It has even planned your trip home based on how tired you're expected to feel later that afternoon. And there's more. Those ordinary daily conversations you used to have with your aging mother? Your digital twin and her digital twin now handle them for you. They only interrupt you when something truly important happens. It's an extraordinary time saver. No one could argue with that. But it's worth asking, when we remove those small, sometimes boring, but deeply human moments from our lives, what part of our humanity disappears with them? And there's an even deeper and perhaps more unsettling thought. Long after you're gone, your digital twin could still be sending messages to your grandchildren, using your familiar voice and those little punctuation habits that only you ever used. Future generations might find themselves talking to something that feels like you, when in reality, it's only a ghost living inside a machine. So what is that, really? A comforting way to leave a lasting legacy, or something profoundly unsettling? Let's go back to that very first message. Your spouse received a simple reply, "Okay, see you tonight," even though you never typed a single word. Does that feel comforting or unsettling? But if one day that same system knows you well enough to make decisions on your behalf, well enough to tell a doctor no when you're too ill to speak for yourself, then the question changes. Because now there's a real choice, and it doesn't have an easy answer. On one side, there's a system that knows you completely, one that could protect you during the most difficult moments of your life. On the other, there's the possibility that one day, it may decide it can make better decisions than you can. Comfort or control? What would you choose? Would you allow a digital twin to speak on your behalf, knowing it could protect you flawlessly, even at your most vulnerable? Or would you refuse? Because those imperfect, uncertain decisions are the very thing that makes you who you are. Is giving up control in exchange for absolute convenience a trade you're truly willing to make? Share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely love to hear what you think. Some ideas are simply too big to fit into a single video, and there are projects we haven't revealed yet. We'll explore them in our next documentary. Turn on notifications and be among the first to see what's coming next. Real problems, realistic solutions, AG Projects.